Hello, my friends. This is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy on a Sunday, almost afternoon. What is 4 o'clock? Is 4 o'clock afternoon or evening? You know what? After as long as I've been on this planet, you'd think I would know, but I think it's afternoon, and I think 5 o'clock begins evening. But there's things that I have to be taught, and there's things that I hope that I can teach you, and that is mostly about dogs. And one of the things we're going to be talking about. Sorry. There's a little fly flying around. I want to talk about and we're going to be talking about this a great deal in the human dog transformation system, the one we are launching as we speak. We got a few great people in there, a couple founding members. It's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to get started. There are going to be some announcements of if you're not a founder, you missed the opportunity. We have some opportunities that will be coming up to get into the system. No longer is the founding deal available. It is closed down. If you even tried to use that link, you get the new price, and the founder is taken off now. So you can check that out if you want to, but that's what we're at now, and it's at full price for now. But what we're going to be doing is sharing some of the things. We actually even are going to be creating a Facebook group where if you're a trainer, regardless if you're in the HDT system or not, that you're going to want to be a part of, because we're going to be in there having discussions about dog training and talking about some of the things that we're doing. If you are a part of the HDT system, it'll be even more useful to you. But I think as a dog trainer overall, it'll still be great because it'll be a little bit of just a group discussion, and a trainer could come in and ask a few questions about what they're going through, whether it's related to business or dog training or a problematic dog or really not as much nutrition. I have a lot of experience with nutrition, that kind of stuff. I don't want people to come in to think they're going to get nutritional advice. However, every so often we have to talk about nutrition because the nutrition obviously is tied quite often directly to behavior problems and emotional problems. And so we will be discussing it, but I don't want you to think that that's the platform. As soon as I have somebody that is maybe from the raw and natural feeding world and that kind of world, we may be able to do more. I said be able to be doing more, weirdly. We're going to be able to do more in that regard as we move forward. But right now, it'll be simply training business questions, human in relationship to dog training. Those kind of questions will be in the private group. So we'll be talking about that later. But what I want to talk about right now is something that just really is an important topic to talk about, whether you're a dog trainer or you're a pet owner. And I just recently, if you go to our Facebook page where you're at now, obviously, if you go to our Facebook page, the Falco Canine Academy Facebook page, you'll see I've been posting some pictures I've been recently finding in some DVDs that I had in a little folder. I've been pulling them out and putting them on the computer and looking at them. I've been finding some great old pictures, but it's taken me back. And I found an old training DVD that I used to sell on electronic collars, which talks about overwhelming a dog and reading a dog and knowing when you've pushed a dog too far and knowing what steps to take when that happens, or you're about to push a dog too far. And so I want to talk about a couple things here that we clearly will be talking about when we get into the HDT system and talking to our trainers that are in that system and going in greater detail, because it is so important. As a matter of fact, in the very first video, that's the very first thing we're talking about, how emotions are actually the cause of bad behavior. And understanding that. And quite often we get a dog and we look at, oh, that's bad behavior. We're going to use this and this, and we're going to correct it and tell the dog no, and then correct them. However, if you're not aware of the emotion that's causing that problem, you very well may cause the dog to be even more problematic, either related to the same problem they came to you with or another one. So you'll create another problem when you're trying to fix one problem, and that happens all the time. An example of that is, let's talk about police dogs really quick. Quite often, police dogs would come to Falco Canine Academy and saying, my dog's bite is very weak. This is just an example of how you can create another problem. So dog comes to us and we say, my dog's bite is really weak. One of the problems tied to emotion is that the dog has confidence problems or has some fear-based issue with biting fully. When a police dog or a dog that's being trained to bite for protection is biting with the front of their mouth, and kind of weakly, and the sleeve can be easily pulled out of their mouth, it means they're probably not committed. Now, it could be, quite often that they have bad teeth, that their teeth are hurt or something like that. So in that case, it's really not so much emotion, although pain, I guess, could be suggested that it's, physical pain as opposed to emotional pain. But anyway, the dog is not biting fully. You're welcome, Andrew. And so a dog, it comes to us with a weak bite, and we're looking at it, go, what's this dog's problem? Why is he not biting strongly? So many dog trainers would automatically get a bungee cord, or they would get a tug and work from the tug and that kind of stuff. But both of those can be great solutions. But if you don't know the emotion tied to why the dog is not biting fully, again, if the dog has fear in doing the bite work itself, the bungee cord is surely going to make that worse. It is a great tool for creating a strong, healthy, strong bite. However, if you put it on a dog who has some issues in regard to bite work, and the first time he lunges out and he hits the elasticity limit of that bungee cord and gets pulled back and pulled on his head, how likely is that dog to now go back out and do it again? Not very likely. And now you've created a bigger problem. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you don't know why the dog is not going fully, and you pick the wrong tool, you'll end up creating a bigger problem. And that's where we see most of our problems with our dog trainers, that they're one-trick ponies where they use this one thing, right? Either they only use a pinch collar, or only use a choke chain, or they only use an electronic collar, or they only use food, or they only use a toy, right? And you have all these people that just, I only. Then you bring a dog in, and now you don't know it's hard to fix the problem that you've created by using the tool that's the only tool that's going to make your problems worse. And that's the tool you use, right? And so understanding the emotional aspect of what is going on with the dog is going to be a huge advantage to you as a dog trainer, and a huge advantage to you as a dog owner if you go to a trainer, or you yourself understand that, oh, well, I see what his problem is. It's this. So if I try this tool, that actually is more of what he doesn't like, right? You go, whoa, I don't want to do that. So another issue in creating a problem is that now you create a dog that bites really hard, and you have a dog that has an emotional problem in relationship to fear. And if I go too far and too deep, sometimes it gets really confusing. But let's just understand the fact that sometimes you can get a dog that's biting soft out of fear to now bite harder out of fear. All right, so there is a way of doing that. And if I try to go into too much into the detail, it's going to cause confusion. But let's just say now you've created a stronger bite by teaching the dog that the way you get over your fears by biting hard is that now the problem you've created is now it'll be harder to teach that dog to let go. Right? So now you have this police dog on the street who at first had a weak bite, and people were getting away, or it was causing more injury because their bite was weak, or they weren't able to they wouldn't bite somebody at all because of the reason of not biting fully and not biting hard enough that the person would get away. But now you've taken this dog who's biting soft out of fear. Now he's biting harder out of fear because you've taught him to do that. Like, let's turn this around, dog. I know you're fearful, but bite harder and it'll all go away. Now dog goes, oh, this feels so great. I feel so much stronger, so I'm going to bite really hard. And now you go, release, whatever the command is, right? So out is mostly used for releasing. So you say out or release or whatever your command is for letting let go. And now what the dog does out of fear is he now bites harder. All right. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens. And most of it's through the training process. And so now you have a dog who you've shown if you bite harder, you will win. And now your fear can be overcome by the confidence that we've given you to teach you to bite harder. So now you say, let go. The dog's not going to let go. And now you have an opposite problem, right? Now you had a dog that had a soft problem. Now he has a hard problem. And now you can't get him to let go, because in his mind, if he lets go, he's now going to be in danger, because the biting is what has caused him to be more comfortable in this fear, right? He's going, I'm going to bite really hard. I bite really hard. And now the guy can't get me, right? But if I let him go, it's like, oh crap. Now if I let him go, now he's going to be able to kick me, hit me, run, or whatever it is. And now the dog is saying, screw that. So now you have another problem. So understanding the emotion behind the behaviors is going to be the key to being successful. And so what I want you to start to look at is when you're training, and if you're working with your dog and you're doing stuff, is I want you to begin to see the things that the dog is speaking to you, and listen to him when he's speaking to you, that you're going too far. This can happen in our pet dog training. So if you're in our pet dog training and you're on week 4 or 5 and you're getting into the little bit higher end stuff where you're going to be doing some meet and greets and that kind of stuff, you want to be fully aware of what your dog's emotions are. And some of those things are yawning, right? A dog yawns a lot. It's probably not because he's tired. It's because he's feeling a little uneasy. And so a dog will yawn like we do when we get up and speak. Sometimes we go to speak in front of an audience or speak in public and we begin to yawn. It's a sensory thing. It's a release of energy through your yawning because now you're uptight or you're tense. And so that's the first sign. You need to look at it, right? It doesn't mean you're not going to follow through with training, but you know you're reaching this dog's limits and he's beginning to either get confused, or he's getting intimidated by you, or he doesn't like that you've added so much stimulation on the outside. Say, up to this point, you've been doing obedience training in your backyard where everything is familiar and comfortable, and now you've moved to the front yard. You may see some yawning and some other signs. I'm going to give you the others. Or you've moved to a park where other dogs and people are walking around. So you've moved from a sterile environment to a higher distraction, higher stimulation situation, and you may see yawning. You may see the dog licking his lips. You may see the dog darting his eyes around, looking for avenues of escape, right? You'll see the dog possibly walking differently. Again, the tail is a normal one, right? The dog's tail begins to go between his legs or down low, and you see the dog kind of hesitating and pausing as you're moving forward. A dog that normally heels forward of you or confident next to you is now somewhat behind you, or actually going behind you, and maybe sometimes between your legs. Those are all signs that you're putting the dog in a position where he's feeling kind of uneasy, and you are going to, if you now try to do obedience, right? Now you try to do the sit down, stay, and he's not doing it down. And now you're adding the pressure of trying to get him to behave and do the obedience behavior on top of his negative emotion. And now you're going to not get really good training. One of a couple things is going to happen. The dog will get up and say, screw you, I'm out of here, right? And try to leave. Right, the dog will bolt and try to get out, and you have the leash, and you're going, where are you going? Like all of a sudden, the dog's like trying to get away from you, and you're going, come here, Fluffy. What are you doing? I mean, you love this. You love it when we do this. But what you've done is you've pushed the dog to the limit and beyond, and now he's going, I'm out of here. I'm going to pull as hard to try to get away from you. That's when the collar slips off because you don't put it on snug enough, right? This collar comes up, and then now the dog's off and running, and you're going, Fluffy, come back, Fluffy. And now the dog's looking for a place to hide because now you've pushed him too far. And does training happen when the dog is pushed that far? Absolutely not. Nothing in relationship to training. No understanding. No clear path is being met when you're pushing your dog to the limit where he's looking for escape to get away from you because you pushed him too far. And so you got to be very, very careful that when your dog is speaking to you about what emotions he's feeling, that you're not ignoring him. Does it always mean you're going to stop? No. It could merely mean that you're going to change where you're at. And sometimes just simply going in the front yard and seeing that your dog, he's licking his lips a lot. He's darting his eyes around, and I can see that he's kind of backing up a little bit. Maybe if I'm going to work on the sit, that I still need to do some more work where the sit becomes automatic, and it doesn't. There doesn't have to be the pressure of getting him to sit. So if you get it to where you say sit and he sits, or you stop and he sits, and it's become reliable. Now when you go out front, because now the dog knows how to do it and it becomes more of a habit and a reliable behavior, there's no corrections that have to be added, no direction that has to be done, no going hands-on to get your dog in a position, which is all putting pressure on the dog. If you've done it to the point where it becomes reliable in a sterile environment, that's when you can begin to now bring it out to the next environment. And now because you don't have to use all the steps, all the corrections, all the pushing, even the food, right? Food can cause stress. And there's been studies done that food reward training actually causes way more stress on a dog than even pressure, any type of correction type of training. Hey, Amanda, glad to see you guys are on. You're on the 91 freeway. That means they're coming back from a seminar that they were at. And so you got to be so careful that you don't add pressure in a situation that just the situation has pressure. So you got a situation with pressure, you add pressure because you're using corrections, and now you get frustrated, right? Now you add your emotion to it. So you got negative emotion plus negative emotion plus pressure, and now you have a mess, and no training is going to take place. I can almost guarantee you. In some of the videos I was watching last night, so going way back, I didn't have a goatee, my hair was darker, and there was more of it. I was watching a video and just going, wow, that was so cool, because back then we were addressing with our students in relationship to some training that before you can use one tool, you actually need to teach the behavior using another tool. Like if we were going to use one tool to teach the dog to do something, we needed to use behaviors that the dog already knew. The reason being is because if the dog already knew it, when I began to use this other tool to get the same thing, it was only about the dog learning about this new thing, as opposed to learning about that new thing and learning the new behavior. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you have a dog over here and you're using something very like, just again, food, luring the dog into a sit. You lure the dog, sit, the dog sits, you give him the food. You say, sit, the dog, all right, sit, the dog sits. Cool, the dog knows to sit. Now you take this new tool, whatever it is, pinch collar, electronic collar, whatever, I don't care what it is. Now you put that thing on the dog goes, oh, this is kind of weird, I don't really like that. And now you say sit, and the dog goes, all right, I kind of know what to sit. And now he feels the thing or whatever it is, and the dog goes, oh, what was that? So now the dog only has to focus on what the hell is that, as opposed to now you're using it to get a behavior that the dog doesn't really even know all the way. He kind of knows it or he doesn't know it at all. Either one of those scenarios is not the time necessarily. And I'm not saying always. That one thing you know about me, if you don't know me, I'm going to talk about it just in case you don't know. I do my best. And I, is April on? If somebody named April, she hates it, that I'm not supposed to say the word try. I don't use the words never and always in dog training, right? That's one big mistake. If you ever say always, or this is why we're so great all the time at what we do, we've not been great all the time at what we do. We've had to make mistakes in order to be better at what it is we do, right? Sometimes we don't choose the right tool. I'm going to be maybe the only dog trainer that ever tells that there have been times that I chose the wrong tool and realized it quickly though, and then switched to another tool. Kim Hollinger is on. Perfect example. Kim Hollinger. All right. So Kim Hollinger comes to us and we like to use a toy reward in most cases with our detection dogs, right? And I would say 99, well, not even that, maybe 95% of our dogs, sorry, I have to take a drink. 95% of our dogs are toy reward dogs, right? I know how to use food. I've used it before. I've used food with click and treat, blah, 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 all this other kind of stuff. We use it for tracking. We use it for obedience sometimes. We use it for a bunch of different stuff. But for detection dogs, the primary reward is the toy. So she comes to us with her dog. We test the dog. The dog looks like he's going to work for the toy. However, as we get into the training, realize I picked the wrong tool. This dog was not that motivated under some circumstances to work for the toy. In other circumstances, yes, right? Given a perfect environment, in a sterile environment, the dog would work for the toy. But what we found out later on is that I picked the wrong tool. And then we had to bring in food. And it worked. From that point on, the training continued on a positive note. We got on National Geographic, or it was a Nat Geo. I can't remember what show we got on with her. But we got on National Geographic, and here I am, the toy reward detection dog trainer, right? And giving all the reasons why we don't use food on YouTube channels and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And there I am in national television, National Geographic, international, talking about this dog that I trained using food. Why? Because that's what the dog needed. And that's how we got the best result from this dog. Did I pick the wrong tool to start? Yes. Yes. The test showed that the dog would do it. But I recognized also that it wasn't like, I even went to Kim and said, the dog's going to do it, but it's going to be, and then later on, we were able to find a treat that the dog just loved, and the motivation to do the detection work for peanuts. It was a peanut detection dog, and blew us away on this competition that we were on National Geographic called something of the Unbeatables. I always forget. I don't know why I could never remember the name of the show. She'll put it on here because I always forget the name of it. Showdown of the Unbeatables. And it was I didn't think the dog could do it. And then we did something in the B-roll shooting where, and I brought this up many, many years ago, where they, remember this dog's a peanut detection dog. They took a peanut cluster. It looked a lot like kibble of dog food. This peanut cluster looked exactly like the peanut, or the the kibble of the dog food that they found almost a perfect match. And so what they did is they poured out a 30-pound bag of kibble all over the floor. And then they took one peanut cluster that looked exactly like the kibble and placed it within all the dog food. Remembering that Lola is sorry, she just put, it was the National Geographic, and she had a pretty bow in her hair. Yes, thanks for doing that. I had to handle a dog with a bow in their hair. Absolutely. So we have all the kibble laid all over the floor. I think, Kim, you were in the room, and maybe, I'm not sure. There were some times we couldn't have Kim in the room because Lola would get so distracted by Kim that it was tough when she was there behind the cameras and behind the microphones. And so that day was, as a matter of fact, that day started off that Lola almost didn't work. And then all of a sudden cameras turn on and she goes to work. So anyway, we have all the 30 pounds of kibble laid on the ground. Within the kibble is a peanut cluster. I come into the room and I look and I go, you got to be kidding me. And they said, yeah, we want you to, and they have it's a 3-camera shot, lights, got the producer, got the two camera guys, and a director in there somewhere in the mix in this room about the size of my garage. And I send Lola in to search. Lola begins to search. She's sniffing because I'm thinking she's just going to start eating the kibble, right? And no, she's sniffing, goes right to this one piece of what I thought was kibble. And I go, oh, because it looked like a piece of kibble to me. She goes to it and she smells it. And she sits, alerting to the peanut cluster. They went directly to the peanut cluster, open it up, and inside you could see the peanut. It was an amazing thing. So the original story was that, have I ever picked the wrong tool? Absolutely. You can, and you will, and you do. And sometimes you go a little bit too far, but if you're recognized, and that's the one thing I think that we do well, is that we recognize quickly that, in this situation, based on the tool we're using, we're putting the dog in a position to fail because he can't concentrate or she can't concentrate on what we're trying to do. We're trying to teach something, but if we take the dog to a place where their emotions are so negative that it's not a learning experience, that they stop learning, then what good is it, right? And so one of the things we have to look at is changing the tool out, to something that's more effective. And sometimes taking the dog not in the backyard, not in the front yard, but maybe in the garage, right? So there's got to be a place in between. So if we have everything going well for us in the backyard, right, and we can't really go any further, right? We have the dog sitting, we have the dog downing, we have the dog heeling, we have the dog coming to us. Everything's working out in the backyard. Why? It's sterile. The dog knows everything. There's no distractions. The dog's lived back there for months, if not years, and so that's fine. Now we go out in the front yard. The dog goes, oh, the cars, right? Skateboarder, a bicyclist, people walking, other dogs, right? So you got sterile environment to kind of a heavy environment, unless you live in a quiet neighborhood, right? The next situation may be the garage with the garage door slightly open. So be creative. Find the happy mediums that as you're moving forward in your training, that you're not putting the dog so much into a negative emotional state that you can't continue to do the learning. And remember about the tool that you're using. How stressful is that tool for this dog? There's dogs that the leash on the collar, on a flat collar, could be stressful for that dog, right? It doesn't always have to be a pinch collar or electronic collar. It doesn't always have to be a martingale or whatever other tool, a harness, right? It could be anything that if you don't recognize fairly quickly that it's that thing that's causing the stress and that you need to change something, right? It may just simply need to change the environment or the number of distractions you have in the environment. But you begin to see, if you begin to see a dog bolting to get away from you, that you didn't recognize the emotion fast enough, and now you're going to have a tough time getting back. It's going to be tough. Sometimes you can wait a day or two and then try it again, but you're going to have to find a place where it's not the same, because dogs remember. I remember when my police dog, which I'm going to have some great pictures of my police dog with my oldest daughter when she was a kid, coming on the Facebook page. But during training for a competition in Arizona, the dog was required to jump over a chain link fence. It might have been Bakersfield, or I can't remember, Arizona. So my police dog goes up. He gets his fingernail hung up between the diamond of the chain link fence, and he can't get his toenail out. And now he's on the ground trying to get his toenail out. He's panicking. He's dragging down this thing, and it's like a big mess. It's a big mess, right? And from that day on, what do you think happened anytime that I needed him to hop a chain link fence? Yeah, he would stop, like 4 feet from the chain link fence and go, oh no, I ain't getting anywhere. I'd have to scoop him up, throw him over the fence, and then he would go and chase the bad guy. So almost for his entire career, there were a couple times where he was so close to the suspect and there was a chain link fence between him and getting the bad guy that he would do it. But you'd hear him like whine, like, oh shit. Oh shoot, chain link fence, right? And then he would go over, and then you'd see him, and then you'd go get him. Like, but there was this whole change in his demeanor when he'd come up to a chain link fence. It's like, oh no, my toenail's gonna get caught again. But ever since that day, wherever we were at, I can't remember where it was, but I think it was Arizona, like I said, but it could have been Bakersfield and Arizona both had a chain link fence scenario that I'll never forget. They were pretty cool. Yeah, he never forgot. And so that's kind of that same thing that the beauty of me being in law enforcement with canines and doing stuff is that I experienced a lot of this stuff that can happen, that can go wrong with training, and then realizing how far is it that we need to back up and change something in order to get a result, and understanding that, we could be creating a problem. And again, back to earlier when I was talking about that, you may not think that you're creating a problem because you're seeing results, right? But understanding, if you're not understanding of the emotion that you're working through, that you're going to create a separate problem. So you, again, in the dog that the aspect of teaching a dog to bite hard, who's having a tough time because he's biting weak, that if you're not understanding what it is you're doing, that you're going to create a clear problem that is not, in law enforcement, it's not healthy not to be able to get the dog off the guy that you're trying to arrest, right? Because you can't put the guy in the cell with the dog still connected to him. At some point you got to get him off. And sometimes you have to grab the dog's testicles. Sometimes you have to grab him by the flank. Sometimes you have to stick a stick down his mouth on those kinds of dogs, right? We thankfully never trained any of those dogs. We understood the importance of a dog letting go when you say let go, right? A lot of dogs that came to us that needed a taser or a stick or ball grabbing or flank grabbing came to us because they needed us to fix the problem. But that's because we understood the issue in regard to the emotions of why it was happening. And then we would back up, and some dog handlers would go, you're taking me all the way back to the stuff we used to do in the academy when I first got the dog. Yes, we are. And that's where we need to start, because you need to go so far back to help the dog through the problems. You got to take him back to kindergarten, right? And say, okay, we're gonna go back to kindergarten because right now, that's how serious the problem is. And then once we take him back to kindergarten, we just now take a different path, right? It's like a dog that went through homeschooling and you got to an adult, and now he has all these issues. Nothing against homeschooling. My kids are homeschooled. And I'm anyway. And so, but then you get there and go, we got to go back. So we go back and now teach, a different path in this other way of schooling, a private school, to get the end result that we're looking for. So sometimes you have to back up and then go back forward, and then you get the dog that you want doing the thing that you want, and he's doing it out of confidence and not with negative emotion and difficulty. Whew. I'm sweating from this Facebook Live. It's either hot in this garage now, or I'm very motivated. All right. So hi from Gina Amanda. We already did that one. Hi, Kim. Always love to see you on here. Yeah, she had the bows on the hair. Yeah, that was really embarrassing, having to go on international. Again, I always say national, but National Geographic is an international TV show. Hey, Sanchez Aaron. I always want to say Aaron Sanchez. I'm reading that in the wrong direction, apparently. Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Hope you got my messages and all that kind of stuff. You had said you missed a couple links. So, all right. So there you go. We're going to end this one. I hope that all made sense for you. I just want to talk about it because I've just been really going through some stuff and some videos and things from the past. And it really kind of hit home again. Aldo and I have been having a ton of discussions about reading the dog's emotions and understanding the dog's emotions. That is going to be the very first thing that needs to be addressed in our system. And we'll probably, right now we have one video plan for that, but I have a feeling it's going to probably morph into more than one video. We're going to try to keep the videos down to about 15 minutes in the training course so that they're chunk size, right? And so that you can watch them, in many cases, take some type of action, or sit down and think about them a little bit and then move on to the next one. We're going to try not to create hour-long ones. It's hard with Aldo and probably myself. Like this one, I don't even know how long this Facebook Live. I intended to come on and off really quick. I shouldn't put all the blame on Aldo, but I came in to come on really quick and get off really fast. But I have a feeling that this isn't as fast. It's probably going to be about 30 minutes, right? We're somewhere in the 20-minute range. But back to the videos. The videos, I'm going to really try hard to keep them less than 30 minutes, at least that. I would like for them to be about 15 minutes long, because it's the hour-long videos where people begin to get lost and they go, well, and they can't watch the whole thing. And so that is our goal to do that. All right. As long as I don't have any more comments, I really appreciate all of you that have been watching and give us the thumbs up and the hearts and that kind of stuff. It's really I really appreciate it, and it's appreciated. It's Sunday. I've been talking all week long, so just excuse the darn languages that I try to speak other than English. All right, that's it. Gina and Amanda, be safe driving down the 91 freeway. Hopefully I'm not causing you to be distracted. All right, that is it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.